Hollywood. In all seriousness, Hollywood has been in the public eye for a very long time. For over a century at this point, it has been releasing movies, and throughout most of that time, it has been a beacon of creativity in the world. Although it has come into a decent amount of criticism over its very long lifetime, Hollywood recently has seen a trend of pandering towards the demands of some of its larger audience bases, namely China. China, which is ruled by the Chinese Communist Party, has very strict laws about what can and cannot be shown in their theaters. And due to the massive audience within China, a country with 1.5 billion people, Hollywood is very keen not to lose that audience and will gladly change its movies and posters to better fit a Chinese audience. First off, why is China so hell-bent on censoring American movies? All in all, the CCP relies, like any authoritarian nation, on the hiding and suppressing of information and ideals they see as dangerous, and so in order to keep up their facade of invincibility, they need to enforce the idea that they alone are the best. This means any movies that might challenge that idea need to be censored. In 2010, MGM shot a remake of their wildly popular movie Red Dawn, but instead of the original movie's Soviet invasion, they swapped the invading force out to be Chinese. Hollywood had already angered China years earlier by making films about Tibet, as well as the thriller Red Corner, an unflattering depiction of China's security and justice systems. And so in order to appease the Chinese officials that had seen photos of the set and were angry about it, they decided to swap the invaders from Chinese to be North Korean, despite the fact that the film had already been shot and it made much less sense in the already theatrically dumb movie. That's just one example of this, though. For some reference, we need to talk about how China takes a different approach to censoring movies than other countries. Other countries like to run movies that are going to be shown in those countries through laws and studios that will look at the movies and decide if they're up to code. They will then either accept those movies into their countries, or they will ban them. China, on the other hand, goes directly to Hollywood and decides whether or not, during the production process, they want Hollywood to do it differently, and they will threaten with not showing it in their country if they don't change how they're producing the movie. Some of these changes are fairly minor. Black Panther movie posters shown in China were changed to obscure his face, Transformers had China be the first to come to the rescue of Hong Kong, and there were a lot more Chinese background characters in Iron Man 3. But there are some pretty pressing issues that come about when you get into the nitty-gritty of it. One big example I want to focus on here is that even in movies like Spider-Man No Way Home, where there's no reference to China whatsoever, where there's nothing about China in it at all, they still decide not to show the movies in their country if they're not allowed to reach into the movie's production process and add advertisement and, propaganda, basically, for the CCP. In an era that is set to be defined by the tensions between the US and China, you would expect movies to be touching on that divide in global politics. But since China has their hands so deep in the pockets of Hollywood, there aren't any being made. And it's not even that China censors or changes movies for just China's viewing. They affect the global releases of the movies, and they affect how the entire world sees both Hollywood and, by extension, America. The effect of Chinese politics on Hollywood cannot be understated, and we're now seeing a large amount of movies that have been changed and edited and that no one has noticed. China has deeply affected and is still making its marks on the most global aspect of American culture.